Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Giacomo, and I will talk to you a little bit about how open source software has helped me to create some generative design and generative typography, hoping that this could be helpful also for you. I will tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, what do I do, and then I will show you a little bit about my work. I am Giacomo. I'm currently the head of design of Remerge. It's the best company. It's located in Berlin. We do up retargeting, and we do it in the best way. And there are some openings. I will share the links later if you want to join the team. I'm also the founder of Give Design. It's a web and visual design studio. And I'm also a member of thype.it, which is a typographic association. It was when I was in Italy, but now there is something planned also for the future. It was more, we used to do meetup like this one, lectures and workshop regarding everything that was connected to typography and visual design, and how these two things could merge together. I define myself a visual and web designer who loves letters and code, and who is also lazy. And as a designer, I will always use to ask myself and to be asked a lot why. So for this talk, I thought, why would two passions like this, why would I have two passions like this, like letters and code? So I asked myself, why do I like letters and code? For the first, and also I asked myself why I'm lazy, but there's no answer for that, that's fine. Regarding the letters, the first reason is that I'm not actually able to write. I know how to write, but I write in an alphabet that is not maybe comprehensible to other people. And also, it's the place where I grew up. It's in Turin. It's where I found all the passion and the ambient where I discovered visual design, my university, type. But it's also a place. It's also a city which history it's filled with people that and places that are really connected to typography. For example, Bodoni, who is also the designer that created the typeface that I'm using here. The Nebbiolo Foundry, who was one of the most prolific type foundry in the 1900, more or less. And the most recent Archivio Tipografico, which is a space, it's an archive where you can find tons, it's located in Turin, and you can find tons of lead type and wooden type. You can play around how they used to do letterpress, and you can see how they used to print with movable type before the coming of the digital printing. Why I love code, I think it's a common designer path. It starts also when I was already studying. I started to develop website for customers, to start to do web design, and also with interactive projects. So I started to look around. I think copy and paste small snippets of code, and you start to see all this huge community, the open source community, or this shared knowledge, all the people that knows so much more than you, and they are able to, and they share all this knowledge. And in all this searching, in all this experimenting, let's see, I found myself better to work with 3 or 4 software that I will tell you about now. The first one is NodeBox. It was the first one, and I don't know if some of you already heard about it. It's a Mac application that it's using Python, and it's perfect. In my advice, it's perfect for static and vectorial visuals more than interactive or animated artwork. This is the UI. Here you have your code. Here there is the console, and this is NodeBox 1. Now it's a little bit different, but this is what I used the most in the past years. This is the console, and there you have the canvas where you have the visual are rendered. The second one is processing. This is not easy to define. It started as a tool to teach programming with the direct visual feedback, and now it's a development environment. It's a programming language, and it's a huge community. And you can do really almost everything with it. And the third one is the most recent. It's OpenType.js, and it's a JavaScript OpenType and TrueType parser developed by Frederick de Blazer. I think you pronounce it like that, who is also behind the development of NodeBox. So I started with NodeBox at first. I started to take this code and play it around, and I did a lot of my work just with these few lines of code. I don't know if you can read it more or less. And mostly interacted with this part of the code, and it's always based on the text path, so on the shape of a letter form, and you play around with how many dots on the path, how many lines you want to interact with it, and playing these few lines, for example, and also the random value. It's really important, and all these few lines of code made me create this visual. And I was staring at it for hours. It was before I wrote the remerge. I was staring at it for hours, and this is actually just lines, randomic lines that are connected to each other, but they are a lot. So it looks like a sphere. You can contextualize in various things, which I did. And it's also, if you think about it, it's kind of given this randomization, a lot of variables and lines that are in the visual, it's one of a kind of composition, because if you run the script again, it's almost mathematically impossible that you will have something like this. So what I always found interesting is to take these ethereal kind of visuals that you created in 1 millisecond and bring them into the printed world, into the analog world. So with this, in some of my work, for example, this was a cover for a dub techno independent label in Italy, and it was these generative visuals on analog pictures that I took on a lake in the north of Italy with my analog Pentax on the film, and I developed it also in the darkroom at the time. So it was really, it's a clashing of these two kind of techniques that I found really interesting. What was not interesting is that I never got paid for the job, and I discovered like 6 months ago that the guy was using my visuals around the web, changing them also, and hopefully you cannot read some nice Italian insults between the conversation. A nicer project, this was my identity, the GIF design identity. I always try, this uniqueness of the artwork was also, I always trying to translate it in my work, let's say. So I try to give, for example, the potential customer, someone interested, something different that they could choose. And also it was an evolving of the G of the logo, and in different colors. And it was also fine if you were holding them like this. You could flip them, and you could have something like a cartoon of the logo that was, getting live. With this same technique, I created a Cocoon Light font that you can download online on my website, Behance or Dribble. I will share the links. And it's a randomic light font, and it's just uppercase because, it's a lot of letters. I'm lazy, so it's fine. For now, it's fine. And it's also one weight, so it's light. I also played a lot around with circles. This is, for example, another snippet of code, always with NodeBox, where you could create some generative circles, let's say balls, visuals. And it's always nice to see also how the brain reads the images. For example, how the texture, how just element from a texture can give you a division between the background and the shape on top of the background. It's just element of a texture are far apart. You read them as a background, and if they're close together, you read them as a shape, and you simplify that shape into something that you already know. I tried this one with the project for the Freitag bags. You were supposed, I didn't win. You were supposed to design the side of a truck. So it was a graphic that could work in the far far side in movement, something like that. For example, you could read where do we go when it was far apart, but it could also work if you cut like a bag from this side, something like that. So it was, color, balls. I use NodeBox and it does the work, so it's fine. I also created balls family. Here there are 3 weights: light, regular, and ball. That they depend from the diameter of the circles. You can find also these just all capital letters. You can find this also online. This is regarding processing. NodeBox processing. I did some less work regarding that has to do with printing, but I experimented a little bit when I found also this from Amnon Ode, this tutorial on Creative Application Network. It's really amazing. So I started to play around with it for a contest that was 36 days of type. I don't know if you heard about it. It was an Instagram contest. So you were supposed to do like 1 letter for every day for 36 days, as you imagined it. So I started to play around. And this is more animated, like videos on Instagram. And this is a bee that gets to life. And this is the UI of processing, and it's also what it was, that same code. Here you have the particles, all these small particle class, and there you have the setup, like the draw, the setup. So processing works a little bit like this. Okay. This is for the I letter. There is a sans serif I letter that is created from the white space between these 2 big serif I's that are translated. So it's Bodoni that creates a sans serif. And this example, here, there is a filling up J, are created with the help of that Generative library that it's really, really useful to access other kind of aspect of generative geometry and true typefaces. Last but not least, OpenType.js. All this experiment, they were always missing like some really, really unique aspects. For example, the font that I created was downloaded already a few times, likely, but all these people, they had the same font. So I wanted to create something really, really unique. So we created an online randomic font generator. It's still not live, almost. And with the help of the amazing developer, Richard Jones, that helped me to develop this using OpenType and a part of Paper.js. So it's still not live, but I want to show you a little bit what you can do with it. This is still a prototype. There is a part, there is the setting part, then there is the input with the buttons, and here you have the preview canvas. So you can decide what kind of letters you can preview, and then you start to change the distance of the letters, of the lines between on the dots on the path. And then you can decide also the distance of the line can reach, so exactly like that. How many lines per dot will be generated with the third setting, and then the amount of mutation that you want to give, so the amount of randomization that every dot gets, so how much it moves. Once you find out all of that and you find your own type, you can download it. So you download an OpenType font software that can be installed on your computer, and you can use it this time. It's something that you created, and you can use it wherever you want, how many times you want. And this didn't start. Okay. Yes, now it was a little bit slow to download it, but it's. Yes, little by little, it's getting there. Yes, this is an example that I did today, to be honest. So of course it's a little bit more bigger than a common font file, but it's because it's way more complex. but it gets, you know, the job done. And I didn't show it from the video before. You can use it. There are all the letter forms, all the accent glyphs, parentheses, everything, because it takes the letter form of an actual. This is Montserrat, for example. That is a Google Web font, the basic shape. And yes, so to recap, this is kind of, up there are my social links, my social media presence. The remerge.io is the website of my company, and down here you can see the software that I talked about, and you can check around the community or the libraries, the references, the tutorials, because it's really, if you want to do something that has to do with generative typography or generative artworks, you should take a look at it. And yeah, thank you very much.